Andrew Whitelaw here for Sports Keeda, joined now by KB Bhullar. KB, very nice to see you. Canada's own, heading into a big one this weekend for you on the Yuri versus Dominic Reyes card, your second UFC fight. How excited are you for this one up against Andreas Michailidis? Should be a good one.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. Very excited. I feel very prepared for this fight. Very much so myself going into this, and just ready to make it happen. May 1st.
How do you feel about looking back on the Tom Breese fight? Difficult one, short notice, and you've had a roller coaster. You've had multiple cancelled fights. Is that just part of the game? How do you look back on it now, your UFC debut?
Yeah, I mean, reflecting back on that fight, I feel like it was one of those things you just couldn't say no to. I mean, I was preparing for the Contender Series at the time, and when I got the call to step right into the UFC against a very gamed opponent, it was one of those things that you just couldn't say no to. And yeah, at the end of the day, I got caught. I got caught with a stiff jab, and we've been doing everything we can in this camp to make sure that doesn't happen again and to refine some things in my game. I knew one day that this is going to happen. This is the nature of the sport that we play. You're going to win and you're going to feel on top of the world, and there's going to be moments where you're going to feel like you're right down in the dirt, and the only way to climb out of it is to get back out of it and come up on top. So yeah, I mean, experiencing my first fight in the UFC being a loss, it's not fun, but it comes with the nature of the game. And I knew my why more than ever before coming out of that fight, recognizing where I belong and why I love this sport so much.
How's life been for you since signing with the UFC? Have things changed at all? It's interesting watching your pre-fight interview. A lot of the comments were like, this guy's funny. I hope he wins. And people seem to take to you pretty well. How have you found the whole experience?
Yeah, I mean, you naturally understand that the spotlight gets bigger. But I mean, if I'm being really honest with you, with everything going on with the pandemic and all else, I mean, my life is pretty much the same, right? I mean, same training partners, same living circumstances, just same surroundings. I try not to get a lot of that in my head. I recognize that it can be very exciting. Don't get me wrong. It's your life and how you're treated does get flipped 180. But the mindset still stays the same, right? There's still a tremendous amount of work that needs to be done. And I do my best to not get too caught up in excited in the spotlight.
Speaking to you, of course, for Sports Keeda over in India, born in Alberta, but of course, strong Indian heritage. How much does it mean to you to have that massive market full of people, that massive potential for a huge audience of MMA fans behind you?
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, at the end of the day, when I told myself which country I want to represent, I thought about it and I recognized that my parents come from India. And as much as I'm not born in India, that's where my roots lie. So for me, it's very important. I understand that at the end of the day, I'm not only representing myself and my family, I'm representing an entire nation. And being as it stands, only Indo-Indian Canadian fighter, that comes with some merit. So when I think about just the power that holds and knowing that there can be kids out there in India who can find hope in recognizing that MMA or martial arts can serve them to be more disciplined, can get them out of trouble, can give them hope, and can potentially give them a career. That excites me a lot, because at the end of the day, this is my only option. This is the one and only thing I know that I love and that I feel like I'm kind of good at. So at the end of the day, to give people that level of hope and to aspire to be someone of being a role model in India is huge for me.
This is a hell of a sport. It's interesting hearing you talk about how much you love it. Why do you love it? What does it for you about this? Why do you step into the octagon, and why is this it for you?
Well, for starters, I used to this day, I really like Tekken. It's one of my favorite video games. And I also enjoy, if I'm being honest with you, I like to fight. I find that there's nothing more beautiful than continuously recognizing that you get better at something. This is one of those things where you can continuously refine your jab. You can continuously add more combinations to your arsenal, and you can never just wake up one day and feel and be like you're the best fighter in the world, even if that belt is around your waist, or even if you have an undefeated record. There's just endless amount of possibilities and scenarios you can get yourself into, and notice that you have to get better at. So why I love fighting so much is because it mentally, physically, spiritually challenges you more than I think anything else in this world. And yeah, I can never stop thinking about it. Fighting's like my first and only love in my life.
You're a striker. I mean, it's interesting when hearing you talk about the sport. It's reminiscent a little bit of the champion, and his style as well. What do you think of the champion, and how much respect do you have for him and his style? And what do you think about when you think about fighting him one day?
Well, I mean, one fight at a time, right? For me, if and when the possibility arises, we'll be prepared. We'll definitely look and see where the holes in his game that we can fill. And yeah, I mean, if I'm being really honest with you, I'm only thinking of the next guy. That's all I could think of in my head. It's very honorable that you can share and say that we have traits in common, but for me, it's one step at a time. Like literally, when when my family and friends ask me what would I like to do after the fight, I tell them I don't even think about the next day after my fight. I don't even think about the next hour. The only thing happening in my life right now is May 1st, and that's it. Whatever happens after, I mean, if you catch me the next day, Andrew, I'm sure I'll have a better answer for that question.
Andreas is coming into this one off a loss as well. He lost his UFC debut. Do you like the matchup? Does it seem like a winnable one for you?
Absolutely. This is a very fair matchup. Andreas is a very gamed opponent. We have to be prepared regardless. He's in the exact same situation as I am. You know, very similar circumstances, is coming into this recognizing it's his biggest fight of his life. And at this point, it always is. But the circumstances at play here are at large. You know, when I win this fight, it allows me to remain and stay in the biggest organization in the world. So yeah, I treat this very seriously. I do still respect my opponent a lot. I wish him the best of luck, and we're ready.
Seems like quite a civilian question to ask, if you will, but because you guys are kind of built differently. But how crazy is it for you when you see an incident like what happened to Chris Weidman over the weekend, and you have to remember, oh, this is what I do for a job. I mean, this is part of the game for me. This could happen to me. Was that still shocking for you, that incident, even though you're part of this crazy sport and anything can happen?
Yeah, seeing that really sucks. I mean, I really hope Weidman's okay. And I, even just on a side, when people start stirring up saying things to Weidman like, oh, when he did that to Anderson Silva, he celebrated after, and then he's right now online mentioning how no, he didn't do that, and people cause rumors. It's just, at the end of the day, whether people start to say things or whatever happens to your body in the sport, that's what you're signing up for. I tell myself all the time that every time I step into that cage, I'm not going to step out the same person. And I know that, again, that could have anything to do with my body or anything to do with my mind. But again, that's why we prepare so much. That's why this is the craziest sport, the craziest sport in the world. I bear witness what this could do to someone. I've experienced you know, I've experienced what this has done to me as well. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's what we sign up for. The pros outweigh the cons. And when you see something like that, you just have to recognize that you're accepting your fate, and whatever happens to it going into that cage. And you come out with a very different lens.
The pros and cons, they're so big. The margin is so massive in these sport, right? There's a very high chance. Do you sense that you're fighting for your future in the UFC here? You do something amazing. You come up with a viral finish. Everyone's talking about you. It's huge. It affects your paycheck. You know, it doesn't go your way. Maybe you don't continue in the UFC. How do you deal with those massive stakes? And is that something you're conscious of, that if you do something great, then that's your UFC journey continuing? And if you don't, then maybe not. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, like if you keep being fixated on that high level of pressure every time you're preparing for a fight or when you step in, you no longer fight the way you naturally should be, in my opinion. Being that with the circumstances we have now, there's, I believe, no audience at play in the octagon at the Apex Center again. And when I walk in, it's just another day in sparring. It's something where, yes, you are fighting and you have to be prepared to do whatever it takes to knock that guy down. But if I keep thinking in my head that, oh, you have to win this fight because it's the biggest fight of your life, you have to, and yeah, there's times where you recognize that, but you separate it, because if that's what you start thinking about, you're not as worried as, or you're not as aware of the punches that are coming in front of you or what you need to do to survive. So, yeah, I mean, I accept that this is another opportunity that can make or break whatever happens in the future. But if you noticed, I don't dwell too much into what happens until the next day. So, come May 1st, you will see the best version of myself. And that I know is all I can promise you.
Very excited to see you fight again, man. All the very best. Really good to speak to you, and best of luck. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate you having me on.